Good afternoon, everyone. It is 4 o'clock, so I'm going to call this executive committee to order. Um, First up, we have roll call, and we have everyone present. Item number 2 is the consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes and recommend to pay the bills and transfers, if any, to the county board. Can I get a motion on item 2? Motion by Vice Chair Rogal. Can I get a second? By Member Klein. Any comments or questions? All in favor of item 2, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next up, we have item number 3, appearances by member of the public. Administrator Taylor.
We've had no requests to speak for this committee.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, departmental matters for executive committee. Under item 4A1B, we have 4 reappointments for the Regional Planning Commission, Telephone System Board, and can I get a motion? Motion by member Abel, second by Vice Chair Rogal. Comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Item 4A1B passes unanimously. Next up, we have item 4A1C, and that is the Legislative Subcommittee. C1 and C2 is request approval of the legislative principles and request approval of the resolution of the McLean County Board adopting the 2025 legislative program for McLean County. Can I get a motion? Motion by member Abel, second by member Klein. Comments or questions? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor of 4A1C, say aye. Any opposed? C1 and C2 together, correct? Item 4A1C passes unanimously. Next up, we have item 4A1D, and that is information technologies. D1, 2, and 3, are there any objections to doing those together, or do we want to take them separately? Take it separately from administration. All right, so item 4A1D1 is request approval of an annual maintenance contract with Caliber Public Safety for support of an integrated justice system. Can I get a motion? Motion by member Burns, second by Vice Chair Rogal. Would you like to talk a little bit about what we've got going on here?
Yeah, so this is the maintenance for our current integrated justice system. So keeping that going as we're spinning up the new platforms.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Say aye. Seeing no objection, item 4A1D1 passes unanimously. Next up, we have item 4A1D2, and that is request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2025 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for Fund 0001, Information Technologies. Can I get a motion? Motion by member Klein, second by member Lehman.
So this is a planned expense for 2025, but in coordination with admin and HR, it was determined that it came best out of a different line item. So this is moving the funds from where they were originally appropriated to that new line item.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 4A1D2, say aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, item 4A1D2 passes unanimously. Next item is 4A1D3, and that is request approval of a resolution approving sole source procurement related to security improvements to the network closets in the Law and Justice Center. Can I get a motion? Motion by member Friedrich, second by member Byrne. Comments or questions? Would you like to speak on this?
Yeah, this is bringing the network closets in the Law and Justice Center in line with the Health Department building and Government Center, where they can be accessed with ID badges instead of needing master keys to get in them, better securing them.
Excellent,
And
thank you.
there will be a stand-up item on Thursday for a related thing and for the General Health Department offices.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other comments or questions on the item? Seeing none, all in favor of item 4A1D3, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. Next up, we have item 4A1E, and that is E1 is a request approval of an amendment to contract with Propio LLC. Can I get a motion? Motion by Member Abel, a second. I have Member Byrne. Comments or questions? Ms. Landreth is here. All right, seeing none, all in favor of item 4A1E1, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Seeing none, item 4A1E1 passes unanimously. Next item, we have item 4A1E2, and that is request approval of the sole source procurement related to security improvements for the BHC office. Can I get a motion? Motion by Member Lehman, second by Vice Chair Rogal. Comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of item 4A1E2, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next up, we have item 4A3 for items to be presented to the board under Information Technologies 3A. Is that something that you will be speaking on, Administrator Taylor?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
So this is, let me check my packet to make sure I'm speaking to the right change. Yes, so this is a request that was presented through the Finance Committee, and so it's brought to you, the Executive Committee, as an item for information because the IT department is a department under your oversight. But this is changing the FTE request for the IT department. It was approved in finance. So this puts this line under project management as a part-time person instead of using it as contractual work.
And this is in response, I mean, we're adding this after we had the presentation where we demonstrated IT was not adequately staffed and needed more assistance.
Well, and this is specific to our ERP software spin up, and in that work to acquire a contract for an ERP system, Barry Dunn, our consultants, mentioned the need for more staff to be able to meet the deadlines and to appropriately convert to our new system. So this is in response to that.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, we can move on. And now we're on to item 4A1 or 4A3B, and that is presentation by the candidates of the McLean County Board for District 1. This is the item we will be hearing from applicants for the vacant District 1 seat. We have received 5 applications, and they will come before the committee in the order in which their application was received. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to address the committee, and then I will recognize committee members to present questions that they have for the candidate. We do have Member Bell and Member Hanson here, and they also will have the opportunity after executive committee to ask questions of the candidates. Does the committee have any questions before we invite the first candidate in? Okay. Ms. Dreyer, will you please invite Mr. Fisher in? I know. We haven't had it over there for a while. Yeah.
I don't mean to make it confusing, I apologize. Just have a seat right there. That works. All right, for you.
Ooh,
Chair is very low. You want to help? Oh, somebody adjusted that really low.
I'm used to it. I
Or
mean,
just switch out to that.
oh, wait a minute, that's a,
There we go.
that's a tall man's chair. There we go. Oh, yes.
All right, better? All right. Welcome, Mr. Fisher. You will have 5 minutes to address the committee, and then I will recognize members who might have questions for you. So you can see the time on the board, so
Oh,
you're
wow.
welcome to start when you're ready.
All right. Well, thank you for having me here. My name is Jim Fisher, and I would like to be considered appointed to the chair left vacant by Catherine Metzger. I've lived here for about almost, well, it's going to be almost 40 years coming up. We moved here in 1985. We have a small farm up west of Hudson. And it's kind of interesting when people say, oh, Hudson, do you know such and such and such and such? And I said, well, unless they work at the grain elevator, probably don't know who they are. But we had 2 daughters. We've raised them here. My oldest daughter was the first class at Normal Community West High School. And I think that was graduation was 1999. They just celebrated 30 years, I think, over at Normal Community West. But again, lived on a small farm in Hudson and very familiar with the community around here. I have been involved in politics, as you say. I worked on a lot of campaigns. I always vote. It's very important, I think, it's for citizens of the United States, state of Illinois, resident of McLean County. It's important to vote in all of the elections, and I do, for school boards up to presidents of the United States. I've been involved with politics. I worked with people in their campaigns, from congressional candidates down to county board members. I think I've run a couple of times for a few offices here in McLean County. I was on the McLean County Unit 5 School Board. I think my first step in there was way back, 30 years ago. I ran for sheriff of McLean County. I have a bachelor's degree from Western Illinois University. It was law enforcement administration. It was called that time. I served in the United States Army. I was an officer and lived in Europe, traveled throughout Europe. My hat says Cold War veteran. I was also in Panama when they had something, there was a bad guy down there at the time. And I was on reserve duty at that time in Panama. After being out of the military, I've had the opportunity to go on mission trips with our church. And again, I've traveled to a lot of countries. So I've had the opportunity to travel a lot, meet a lot of people from all over the world. My wife and I host students, international students at ISU through the organization of ISI, International Students Incorporated. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's the program when students come from another country that they get to live with a host or stay with a host family until they get into an apartment or the dormitories. And we've had students literally from all over the world, and that's just a tremendous learning opportunity. You get to learn the inside of the country that the people are from and that you wouldn't normally hear or see or get to read about. But I am a member of the McLean County Republican organization. I serve on the executive board there. I would be happy to serve on the McLean County board as well. Do you have any questions for me?
If you have nothing further, yes, I'll open it up to the committee. Member Klein.
Hi, Mr. Fisher. I'm going to ask everyone the same question, just so you know it's all
Oh.
even. As you may know, much of our work on county board happens in our committees. If you were to be appointed, what committee would you like to serve on and why?
Taxes, taxes, taxes. Well, I don't know that's an official committee, but I know that there are a lot of taxes, especially the landowner, since I do own a farm. So I would like to work on a committee that would have to do with the amount of taxes that are assessed in McLean County. That would be important to me. I know that having several properties in McLean County, the amount of taxes that I pay is one of the highest expenses that I have living here. So I'm not exactly sure the name of the committee, but that's what I would like to work on.
Any other questions from the committee? Yes, Member Abel.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Fisher, and for your interest in the position. One thing that I heard in what you presented to us was that you've ran for several offices. I heard sheriff. I think that I saw you running for state rep as well. You did serve on the Unit 5 board. So why the county board now? What is the special interest there?
Well, a lot of the things that I do are interests because I live here. Even with I did run for the state representative position that was created when they redistricted the entire state, and it was part of McLean County. It's part of where I live, and I'd like to be, or I want to be a part of our local government that is able to serve people in the government or the districts that I live in. So the McLean County Board, District 1 specifically, that's a large portion of land of where I live, and I would have a direct relationship with a lot of the people, the farmers particularly, in the community up there.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Yes, Member Lehman.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Fisher, I'll echo the thanks for being here this evening. Really appreciate your interest in representing your area on the county board. As I'm sure you well know, with the makeup of the county board, it's not all one party or another. We all have to really work together. At this juncture, there are more Democrats on the county board than there are Republicans. So we really do need to have fantastic lines of communication to make sure that we can get the jobs accomplished, because it's something that we've all really got to do together as a cohesive unit, because we are working not for our own interests, but for the interests of our constituents in the county. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about any times that you've had to work across the aisle and what you would do to make sure that we can build great relationships and have really cohesive communication to make sure that we can get the job accomplished.
I'll tell a little story. I was invited one time for one of the local school districts to do a debate, and the topic at the time was the Confederate flag. And I was invited to present the southern portion of the debate. And this was for an open audience, and it was going to be in high school. And the other person that was on the debate, or I was supposed to be debating, I had worked with when I worked in an insurance company, I worked with him, and we were complete opposites. Personally, we were complete opposites. But when I learned, and he was debating me, he learned I was debating him, and it's like, oh. And I invited him to lunch one time. I said, let's go to lunch, let's talk about what we actually need to talk about and the things that we should not talk about. So I can work with a lot of people, even though we may not agree on things. I can certainly work with you. We may not vote the same way, but I can understand your point of view, and I hope I would be able to convince you to understand my point of view. And if there's a situation where it's close, maybe we can negotiate something. So I can work with people who I disagree with.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fisher.
Any further questions? Yes, Member Byrne.
Mr. Fisher, you mentioned your experience as a Unit 5 school board member. Excuse me. And that was some time ago? Is that correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
It's-
Why leave the school district? If you're on the school board, why not continue to work with local public schools? Was there any particular reason why you chose not to continue to work with the school district?
Well, I think it's because there was an election and I came in second place.
Ah, that's a good reason. All right, good question then. So in looking over some of the previous interviews that you've given, and as you alluded to, your distinct opposition to raising taxes, and certainly property taxes and tax rates remain very high and remain a priority of this board and wanting to reduce that tax burden. But in one quote that you gave, you said you wanted to get rid of taxes entirely. So if we were to do that, much of the tax work, or much of the tax revenue that comes into the county funds departments and salaries. So do you have a department or a group of folks that you would consider cutting or eliminating their salaries because you'd like to reduce their taxes?
Well, I have to confess, I haven't looked that deep into it. I eliminated a complete department. I know it's not on a county level, but I know that dealing with farm property, I think it's the EPA is one that I have some difficulty with, and some of the things that they do and require me as a farmer to do it, they just plain don't make any sense. But that's not on the county level.
Can you give an example of an EPA regulation you'd like to see
Well, for
eliminated for
example,
farmers in McLean County?
I have what's called CRP, Conservative Resource of. And the whole idea is to set up filter strips so that the chemicals that you spray on your farmland for weeds and insects and that kind of stuff does not filter into the water system. And I have a creek that runs through my property on my farm, and I do have these filter strips. And they tell me I can't, well, this is just something recently that I can't mow those. You're not supposed to mow those filter strips because there could be an animal there. Okay, well, I'm very familiar with the animals and that kind of thing that live there because, believe me, I know of them anywhere from skunks to coons and deer and things like that. But the EPA is trying to tell me you can't mow because you could danger an animal that might live there. And I go, okay, so I can't mow. So then when I can't mow, the weeds are going to be growing extensively and spreading all of their seeds into my field, which requires me to spray more chemicals. It doesn't make any sense. But there again, I mean, that's more of a federal government level, but that's just an example.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any further questions from the committee? Then I'll open it up to Member Bell or Member Hanson. Do you have any questions for the candidate? Okay. Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Fisher. Oh, I'm sorry, Bev did have a question. Okay. Bev, if you'll turn on your microphone. Yep, thank you.
Mr. Fisher, your military records talks about, and I'm not trying to read anything into this, but some of the conflicts were around the time that we were active duty. And did you carry a firearm or a rifle in battle?
No, I was not on any combat situations.
And what was your MOS?
35 Alpha, I was an intelligence officer.
Is that the reason that you went into criminal justice in college?
My degree in law enforcement administration was to be in law enforcement. after I graduated. After going through ROTC and college, the choice for me was at the time to be intelligence. And that I found it to be serving the things that I had learned better than being a military police officer. So the intelligence side is what I was able to, I will have to say is that because of my grades and my high grades in college, I was able to go into intelligence, so it wasn't the easiest MOS to get into. But getting into it, it was a fascinating area to serve.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that. That's out of Monterey, California, is that correct?
It's Fort Huachuca, Arizona is where the school was. I had been in Monterey, I have been there. I served in Germany, and it was recently declassified what I did. It was called Detachment A.
Very good,
So
sir.
nobody knows about that, probably.
I'm familiar with these declassifications. I've had it done on me also, but how many languages do you speak?
I almost speak 100% English. I do say, because I lived in Germany, I was able to pick up enough German to order food at the restaurant and buy things at the store. We called it GI German at the time, but.
Yes,
I've-
Ein bitte, and you know how to get home in a car, in a taxi?
That's right.
Yes, okay.
Guten Tag, meine Damen und Herren. Yes.
Yes. The only thing that I'm concerned about, when we're on the board, we have a lot of duties that are assigned. And when you say you want to lower taxes, but we have parks that we have to take care of. We have the sheriff's department, which always is going to need new equipment. So there's so many moving parts. And it sounds like you want to be on finance. What can you bring to the table on finance committee?
Running a farm for 40 years. I've had a business. I used to run a car wash. I owned the car wash. I ran the business. Didn't realize at the time when I was doing it how much work is involved with a car wash. But yeah, I do have experience with business. I do have experience with farming, and I think that's important, especially at that part of the county of which I would be representing specifically. I paid off my house.
Well, thank you, sir, on some of those questions. You said in your church group, you have gone overseas or had kids come and stay with you under the exchange program. Would you be willing to work across the aisle in immigration?
Yes. I am very familiar with the immigration and a lot of the difficulties that are involved with it, and I do believe there's a lot of things that can be improved upon.
Okay, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Bell. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Ms. Dryer will take you back to room 404. Once all the presentations have been completed, you would be more than welcome to come back and attend the remainder of the meeting.
Okay?
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Dryer, if you can bring in Mr. Kennedy when you come back. Thank you. As today is a Monday, we do want to be mindful that city council does meet in here after we do. So if we can kind of keep that in mind, I didn't realize we had gone so far on this one. That's right, Mr. Kennedy, you're in the hot seat. Welcome. You will have 5 minutes to address the committee, and then the committee members, I'll open it up to questions for you.
Okay.
Okay. So in your 5 minutes, you can see on the board here, and the countdown will begin when you do.
Very good.
Thank you.
Well, I probably should apologize. Once I started filling out a resume, I kind of realized my life has been a little boring. So, lifelong resident, born and raised in McLean County on the same piece of property. I've farmed since 1977 and started a drainage business in 1991. Been involved with Cooksville Grain for 35 years, served on the board, and served as president for 28 or 30 of those years. So, business-wise, I've been a member of the Illinois Land Improvement Contractors since 1991. Served a one-term, 2-year term as president back in 13 through 15. In addition to what was on the resume, I did fill a 2-year term as Martin Township supervisor. At the time, I did not run for re-election due to other obligations. I didn't feel that I could devote the time to that and do a good job. So I don't know, I've served on several committees within the state organization, lining up equipment for conservation projects and planning and implementing projects done by the association. Business-wise, I'm self-taught. Have gone from surveying with a level and hand-drawing maps to full-blown GPS survey and control and computer design of tile systems. You may want, I'm sure a question would be why I'm interested. I'm to a point business-wise that I feel that I have the time to serve in something like this. And with my personal and business contacts and relationships, I feel that I would be an excellent candidate for District 1. I've got 2 minutes left and I'm out of stuff.
You do not have to fill the full 5 minutes. So at this point, I'll open it up to the committee. If you have questions, yes, Member Klein.
Brevity is always good. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you for coming. As you may know, much of our work on the county board happens in committees. If you were to be appointed to the board, what committee or committees might you want to be appointed to and why?
I'm going to claim some ignorance. I didn't memorize all the committees. Transportation would probably kind of be in my wheelhouse. Could you run down the list of committees and I'll say yes or no?
I can briefly, there's finance, there's health, there's land use and transportation, which is a combined committee. There is justice, there is property. Health, did I say health already?
Yeah, yep.
Did I get him right? Okay.
Well, I do have a little experience in the health. We did install septic systems for a number of years, that part of the health department. I probably could handle most anything that was thrown at me, so.
Yes, Member Byrne.
Mr. Kennedy, thank you for coming and expressing interest in it. You've been a farmer and a resident in McLean County for a very long time, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes in the ag business.
Yes.
What direction do you envision agriculture and agribusiness heading in McLean County, and what do you think are steps that the county can take to support the ag community?
From a county's perspective, obviously zoning regulations impact the rural area quite a bit. And I don't see a need for a lot of change in those zoning requirements. I mean, personally, I went through a zoning change on our own property to run the business off the farm. And once we figured it out, it was not that big a deal. Probably should be well, I don't know. The new fertilizer installations I see are better equipped to handle surface water than the older plants. So that's been a change for the positive.
I got you. Yeah, it's a tough one. Thank you, though. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Yes, Member Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for being here tonight. And thank you for mentioning your experience as a previous township supervisor in Martin Township. I would like to hear a little bit more about what you enjoyed about that role and maybe some leadership qualities that you developed that you would bring with you here to the county board.
I enjoyed the down-to-earth stuff, behind the scenes, not having to be physically involved with something to come up with an outcome. I did enjoy it, but my time constraints were just, that's about the time we were just starting in business. I was spread pretty thin back then.
And what leadership qualities did you develop there that you would bring to the county board?
I really wasn't there long enough to develop anything. Leadership qualities probably come more from the grain company board and the state organization of land improvement contractors.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the committee? Yes, Member Lehman.
Thank you very much. Greetings, Mr. Kennedy, and welcome. Thanks for your interest this evening. Just curious, in the world of county board, we really have to work together a lot. The board is not exclusively one party or another. At this juncture, it's more heavily seated on the Democratic Party, but we still have a great blend of folks that need to work together to get, overall combined goal of servicing the county. What do you have to bring to the table, or can you tell me about how you would approach some conversations that you might need to have across the aisle, or any time that you've had conversations in reaching across the aisle, or maybe discussing something with somebody that you might not always agree on? I'd love to hear a little bit about what that sounds like for you.
Well, I don't see Republican, Democratic. We should be working toward a common goal. So I really don't see that the two different parties should enter into a lot of decisions. Myself, you're going to know where I stand. I've been accused of being blunt sometimes, but I can temper that a little bit. But everybody else will know where I stand, and try not to be a adversary, but I'm going to speak my opinion and leave it at that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Any other questions from the committee? Yes, Vice Chair Rogel.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. You mentioned some of the zoning issues, so I want to follow up on that just briefly. We have more wind farms, more wind turbines than any other county in the state of Illinois. We've now seen our first commercial solar farm being approved. I'm not even sure if they've broken ground yet. And now we're looking at, we've sent changes to zoning regarding battery storage to the Zoning Board of Appeals for their approval. Where do you stand on solar and wind as a farmer, as a farm owner? Whether you agree on that, or whether you think we might have reached the limit of what we should do, or whether I've gotten questions over the last year of have we reached a saturation point or not? So you're out in the county more than I'm out in the county. What are your thoughts on that?
Personally, I'm not a fan. From one standpoint, as a drainage contractor, the infrastructure that goes in with a wind farm just really tears up all the work we do, and it has to be repaired. In the country, I kind of enjoy the night sky, not so much anymore with the blinking red lights all night long. I think we've reached the saturation point. That is my personal opinion. But I know that money talks, and it is good income for landowners, and so that's one of the cases where you've got to maybe separate your personal feelings out of a decision.
And then a quick follow-up then on that. I appreciate your opinion on that. Also, since you're in Colfax, right down the road from where they've talked about putting a CO2 well, where would you fall on that spectrum as well? Because we've gotten varying comments from landowners, we've gotten varying comments from board members. As we're moving forward, we voted against it last time, but it's continuing on, so that's one of the issues. And it would be in your district, so that's why I'm curious.
I would probably vote against it again. There's too many unanswered questions in my mind. What's going to happen with CO2 storage and pipelines, and I just think we'd be opening up a can of worms.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from the other board members present? No questions seen. Well, thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Ms. Stryer will take you back to room 404. Once all the interviews have been completed, you would be welcome to come back to finish out the remainder of the meeting.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
And Ms. Stryer, if you can bring in Mr. Zebarth. Thank you. Until 6. They like to set up at 5:15. Okay. Trying to figure out where we can, yeah, absolutely. Yes, welcome, Mr. Zebarth. If you can join us, the microphone is on with the red light. You will have 5 minutes to address the committee. And once you do not have to fill up the 5 minutes if you don't want to. But after you finish, I will open the floor to questions from committee members. We've got a few other board members who are here for you to answer the questions, and then we'll just go from there. So the 5 minutes is on the clock. And you can start when you're ready.
Well, very good. I won't take 5 minutes. So, one, I just want to start with saying thank you for the time and consideration of my application. My name is Andy Zebarth. I guess I'll just start with kind of how I got to where I'm at here. I don't think I started this process with me seeking out this opportunity necessarily. I learned about the potential opportunity. It was brought to my attention, and I was asked, hey, would you have an interest in pursuing this? And didn't really know a lot about county government. I had served in township government in the past, and so I had conversations with several individuals that could help me educate myself on the role of county government and this opportunity. So spoke with some current board members, spoke with prior board members, spoke with some mentors that I leverage when I want to, make these types of decisions. So obviously spoke with my family, got their blessing in terms of pursuing this. So have the greatest amount of respect for the McLean County Board, the leadership that we currently have on it today, and recognize the challenges that they're faced and all they have to do. So, so background on myself a little bit. Lifelong resident of McLean County, grew up in Hudson, Illinois. Grew up on a farm in Hudson, Illinois. So, spent my entire life here. Raised a family here. I married the love of my life, Jill Zebarth, who grew up in this community as well too. Raised two great kids. Well, I think I raised two great kids. Somebody might have to tell us we did or not, but raised two great kids, Alex and Max. Both are very successful and doing well. One is actually a sophomore redshirt sophomore at Illinois State University, majoring business, playing football there. The other works for a company here called MaxLighter that builds classic Broncos. So very diverse family there. As I mentioned, I grew up working on the family farm here in Hudson, Illinois. That farm was established by my great-grandfather, my grandfather, and my father. They, built the roots here, and I'm lucky enough to have that background as my kind of a driver of my work ethic, who I am, and just my personality as well too. My brother Aaron currently farms still on the family farm, and we just take great pride in that tradition and background. And one thing as well too, growing up on a farm really introduces you to the farming community, which is made up of just outstanding, hardworking, truthful people that will drop anything to help anyone. So that's kind of, again, something I try to embed in what I do and who I am. This community has provided me a great deal of opportunities for myself. As I said, grew up here, attended Hudson Grade School, Normal Community High School, and then I was lucky enough to move on and continue my education at Illinois State University. Also had the ability to extend my athletic career at Illinois State University. So just as my son did, I played football at Illinois State University. I can't tell you how impactful that was in my life. This community provided me an outstanding opportunity for employment at State Farm. I've been with State Farm Insurance for just short of 27 years. I think my resume kind of outlines all my different experiences that I had at State Farm. Currently a director of security for State Farm. That provides a lot of new, unique, and different challenges on a day-to-day basis, which is an outstanding opportunity in itself. So for that, I can't express how lucky I am to live in a community like we do. So lastly, to just close, when I grew up, my father served on many boards, the Hudson Township Board, the McLean County Fair Board, and I saw the impact he made in the community. That's the same as what I want to do for McLean County. So I'll close.
Thank you. You almost hit the 5.
I know, I didn't think I was going to. I apologize.
So I'll open it up to questions from the committee. Member Klein.
something happens when you have a microphone.
You just keep
sort of
going.
lose- I know. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Zebarth. I have a question about committees. So as you may know, much of our work on the county board happens in our committee structure. If you were to be appointed, what committee or committees would you like to serve on and why?
Sure. So, obviously familiar with some of the committees, Justice, the Land Use, Executive Committee, won't recite all of them. I'll be honest, I'll serve where there's the greatest need. And as a board, where you have challenges that you like to be addressed. I really don't have anything specific, any specific agenda or area that I think, you need me to solve the problem. I will do what the board asked me to do in terms of assisting from a committee standpoint. Yep.
Any other questions? Yes, Member Abel.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. I see that, you're the director of the workplace protection or security, as you just said. And you also really value being able to go to those away games to support your son. Our committees happen at a lot of different times, 8:30, 9:30 in the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock at night. Do you believe that you have the flexibility in your schedule, including your work schedule, to be able to make it to those committee meetings every month?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I would say probably for all of us too, work is a priority, right? That's who puts food on your table, and it's priority, obviously, yes. But yes, I have flexibility in my current role that allows me. Obviously, currently now, we were dealing with wildfires in California, and that was a little challenging for this afternoon, but I found a way to make it to this meeting, and I would do the same if I were selected for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? Yes, Vice Chair Ragal.
All right, maybe this will be a little easier than some of the others. It looks like you graduated about 3 years before my brother-in-law started there. So I bring him up a lot. What position did you play at?
At Illinois State, I was a left tackle. Yeah, left tackle. So
All right,
protecting
well,
the blind side.
As a former left tackle, you're off to a good start there. So what kind of leadership do you think that your football career brought to you in your professional life, and what do you think you learned there that will help you on the board if you're chosen?
So I'll share both from an Illinois football standpoint and also my experiences at State Farm. Just exposes you to a diverse group of individuals that have different thoughts and opinions on a variety of different things, right? And, from an athletic standpoint, from a sports standpoint, you're all looking to achieve the same goal. Very similar at State Farm. You all are looking to achieve the same goal. So you have to have the ability to listen and understand different perspectives. Certainly have your own opinion and thoughts on how you should handle or approach any given issue. And I think that experience in college football carried on to my roles at State Farm, that carried on to my ability to serve in the community. So that's how I kind of see the impact.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Member Lehman.
Thank you very much, and welcome, Mr. Zebarth.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you for your interest this evening. So I'm sure, probably hinging off of what Member Rogal just asked, with your experience in on the field, your experience in State Farm, I'm sure you've probably been in situations where you might have to work with folks that you don't always agree with, or have differing opinions, but still have to get to a final resolve at the end of the day. Oftentimes, those are things that happen in our community and how we serve. So I'd just like to hear a little bit more about how you approach those type of situations and how you kind of see your leadership style.
Absolutely. I think it's establishing common ground to the extent that you can, right? It's, everyone's going to have their own opinion, their own desire. And as I said, as long as there's clarity in terms of what's the ultimate goal, what are we trying to achieve, what are the things we can agree on, right? And then we'll work through the things that we don't see eye to eye on. And there's no easy answer for that piece of it, but I think that's the only way that you can work through the issues. You know, that's one of the things that I take the most pride of in at State Farm in particular, is when you do have diverse thoughts, differing thoughts, how do you collectively bring the group together to come to the, you know, the common solution, the common goal? But I think it just starts with, you know, at least identifying the things that we agree upon, and then working from that point out.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Any other questions from the committee? I do want to echo a question that Ms. Abel had, Member Abel had prior, was you have had time on the township board.
Correct.
And what was it that you learned from that? What leadership skills did you gain from that? Sometimes it's hard to remember what it was like
been a
before
little
you were
while.
on the board.
Yep.
But it is very much a baptism by fire to be in government. So I'm curious, like, what you learned in township.
Yeah. So one, just the respect of the community that you serve, I think is a learning. Secondly, it's recognizing that you don't know everything. You gotta make sure that you take the time to understand you know, whether it's the logistic components of the government in itself, you know, the people that you serve. And I guess maybe the one thing that I took away is I'm not afraid to say I don't know. And I just need to learn more and understand before I can provide you an opinion or thought on that. So I think that might be one of the bigger takeaways is if you don't know, just say you don't know, and you need to educate yourself and understand.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the other board members who are here? Seeing none, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. Ms. Stryer will escort you back to 404. If you'd like, you can remain, and when the interviews are done, you can come in for the remainder of the meeting, if you'd like.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Very much appreciate the time today.
Thank you. And next up is Mr. McKenzie. Not one, not one. Mr. McKenzie, if you can come join us right here, the microphone is on. Thank you for coming and being here tonight. You will have 5 minutes, and it is up on the board. You'll have 5 minutes to address the committee, and then we will recognize members who might have questions for you afterwards. Okay? So,
Thanks for having me. I don't really have much of an opening other than I live in a small town, grew up in a small town. Don't have as deep of a profile as maybe the other candidates in politics or local government. I guess I'm open to questions. I don't really have, it's pretty straightforward. I don't have a lot to open, and I'll be happy to answer anything you guys go forward. More time for questions, I guess. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, I'll open it up to questions from the committee members. Yes, Member Klein.
Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. As you may know, much of our work on county board happens in our committees. If you were to be appointed, which committee or committees would you like to serve on and why?
Most of my background is education currently and maybe retail. So I guess whatever education fits in. I don't really have a huge stickler on what committee. I guess wherever you need a body, and I'm willing to learn whatever is needed. So I'm open to questions and answers. That's the kind of thing. Yeah.
Any other questions from the committee? Yes, Member Burton.
Mr. McKenzie, thank you for coming in. You have quite the digital presence. Is that correct?
Yeah, a little bit.
So much of your digital presence in the same space is known conspiracy theorists, extremists, and purveyors of misinformation. Do you personally believe that human-caused climate change is real?
I don't think this is the setting for that. I'm just here to talk about representing the District 1.
So that's not a yes then?
That's not a topic that I'm going to get into. It's not really related to this meeting currently.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Member Abel.
We haven't really heard anything about why you want to serve on the county board, or what skills, leadership qualities that you have that you plan to bring to the table if you're appointed. Could you address that, please?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm young in the gills for any kind of local government. The experience, sometimes you can have too much experience, you know, you're in it too long, maybe you're tired out of it. I think this day and age, having limited experience helps because it's a new idea, new body, just a fresh look on maybe the different answers to things that come up. How else are you going to get experience unless you run in and do it? So that's how I look at it. I mean, I live in a small town. I represent the small towns in District 1, and that's why I want to join the board, county board.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Member Lehman?
Thank you very much for being here this evening, Mr. McKenzie.
Yeah.
So part of being on the county board is making sure that no matter what point of views we have, that we
Yes.
ultimately act with our constituents' best interest at heart.
Yeah.
You know, the board is made up of Democrats and
Sure.
Republicans. I'd like to hear a little bit from you about how you would approach situations and having conversations and addressing certain issues and items when you might disagree.
Yeah, so I think more so than state, maybe national, locally, is just, it's pretty much status quo. I mean, you're there to serve the constituents on the matters that most important to them, not necessarily your own beliefs. I'm gonna probably have a lot of disagreements on how we get to that solution, but I think we're all adults and we can work together to find those in a common ground. I mean, the difference of opinion of how to get there might be up for debate, but I think what matters most is that we come to an agreement that, okay, this is what's good for McLean County overall.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, I'll open it up to our other two board members. Any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you very much for being here tonight. Ms. Dreyer will escort you back to 404. When we finish the interviews, you'd be welcome to come back in to sit through the rest of the meeting, if you'd
All right,
like.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Technically, the meeting starts at 6. They do like setting up at 5:15, but 5:30? Okay. Okay, we will do our best to be clear. Welcome, Mr. Lee. How are you today? Have a seat, please. Thank you. You will have 5 minutes. If you want to take the full, you can. You are not obliged to. And after you've finished your opening, I'll open up the questioning to the committee to answer questions. So, thank you. If you,
All right, thank
it
you.
will start when you do.
All right, hello, my name is Josh Lieb, and I am honored to be considered for an appointment on the McLean County Board. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you today. I grew up in Shelbyville, Illinois, a small rural community, and I've been a proud resident of McLean County for over 20 years. That started with me attending Illinois State University. My wife Megan and I now live in North Normal with our 2 children, and we own the hair salon in Bloomington where she works. This is my first time seeking any type of public service position, so this is new territory for me. However, I'm eager to embrace the learning experience, build new relationships, and to serve the people of McLean County. I'm applying for this position because I'm eager to contribute to the well-being and future of our community, where my family and I have established deep roots. Although I identify as being more conservative, I am not affiliated or involved with the local GOP. My approach is one of moderation, collaboration, and open-mindedness. I believe that effective governance stems from a willingness to work together, to listen to diverse and inclusive communities where everyone's perspectives matter, build consensus around policies that benefit all residents. Our goal should be to build a community where children grow, seniors can retire comfortably, and communities can flourish. As a small business owner and a parent of 2 children in the Unit 5 school district, I am deeply invested in the success and prosperity of our community. Running a business has taught me the importance of hard work, fiscal responsibility, and strategic planning. all of which I believe are crucial in public service. Additionally, having children in Unit 5 schools gives me a personal stake in ensuring that our educational system, community resources are robust and beneficial for all families. In my full-time position with Taylor Print Impressions, I have cultivated a habit of making decisions based on careful analysis and a thorough understanding of the issues at hand. I am dedicated to weighing the pros and cons of each option to ensure informed and balanced decision-making. This approach has not only helped me in my career, but also in fostering positive relationships with people from various backgrounds and viewpoints. In addition to my career in the graphic communications industry, I serve on the advisory board for the Graphic Communications Technology program at Illinois State University. I'm confident that despite our diverse political views, we can unite to tackle the challenges facing our community. By embracing facts, fostering open dialogue, and respecting one another's perspectives, we can make decisions that will improve the quality of life for all residents of McLean County. Thank you for considering my application. I am excited for the possibility to serve the community with you all through cooperative and thoughtful governance and contribute to making McLean County an even better place to live and a welcoming destination for newcomers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will open this up to the committee. Member Klein.
Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Leaf. Sorry, I'm over here. So as you know, you may know, excuse me, much of our work on the county board happens in our committees. If you were to be appointed, what committee or committees would you like to serve on and why?
So the first one that comes to mind for me is the Finance Committee. I think running a small business for over 14 years has given me a lot of experience in managing budgets, cash flow, financial planning. In addition to my professional experience, I manage estimating and purchasing, and I believe my role there, helps me to analyze cost, assess financial implications, purchasing decisions, allocating resources efficiently. I think that those are all skills that would be very beneficial to Finance Committee. Beyond that, I'm open to helping and serving on maybe where other committees need an additional person or another resource. Yes.
Any other questions? Yes, Member Byrne.
Hi, Mr. Leap. Thank you so much for coming in. You are clearly very active in our community, from your business experience to raising children to your noted support of our public school system. From your perspective, wearing all of those hats, what do you see as the biggest issue for McLean County to continue to be a place for families to come and put down roots, start a business, raise a family?
I think that, find my notes here. One of the things that comes to mind is being a place for small businesses, having access to programs that are, make small businesses want to come here. The education system, having children, I believe, is another big one. So those are a couple of the areas I think that I find to be top priorities.
Any other questions from the committee? Member Lehman.
Thank you very much for being here this evening, Mr. Lee. So as somebody who's active in the community, obviously in business and the like, I'm sure you've had plenty of situations that you've run into where you have to get to a overall resolve on a particular issue where you might not see eye to eye with folks. I'd love to hear a little bit about a time that you might have been able to come to a resolution in a situation where you might not always agree with everybody that you're interacting with.
I don't have a specific example, but I think it's just really respecting one another, finding common ground. Even though we might see things differently, I'm sure we can find common ground. We can sit down, analyze what my thoughts are, what your thoughts are, and see how we can approach that and unify, on where we can come together, even though we disagree. What can we agree on, and then move from there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions from the committee? Yes, Vice Chair Rogel.
Thanks for coming in. So just, I guess how to put, District 1 is a mostly rural district, a lot of small towns, lots of farms. You are, I'm not criticizing, but you live in Normal. What would you say, what can we say, or what would you say for those people that live in the more rural portions of that district on whether or not they would want to be, what can you tell them that would make them feel better about someone from Normal representing them as opposed to someone from more of the rural portion of that district?
I would just let them have the understanding that I am the voice for that district. For them, they can bring their concerns to me, and I will make sure that I present them to the board, and we can address any concerns that they have, make sure any special projects or anything that needs funding in that district that they're in is brought forward, and just let them know that I will prioritize their needs.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, I open it up to the other two board members. Any questions? Seeing none. All right. Thank you, Mr. Lee. You are welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting. Ms. Dreyer, if you could let the other candidates know they're welcome to join us.
Thank you.
Yes, I was going to. I am going to invite all the board members to contact me between now and Wednesday. I was under the assumption I needed the name by tomorrow, but I need the name by Wednesday. So if anyone here or anyone out there listening, please give me your input, and I will be making that recommendation on Thursday, January the 16th at the county board meeting. Thursday is the 16th. Halfway through the month. I know. Yeah, I was waiting for Ms. Dreyer. Are any of the other candidates coming back? They're coming. Okay. Welcome back, all the candidates. I just want to thank you again for your interest in representing the constituents of your district and the county as a whole. Moving on, we are finished with the executive committee, so we will move to item 4B, and that is Finance Committee, and that is Member Lehman.
Thank you very much, Chair Johnston. The Finance Committee doesn't have any items to be presented for action this evening. We do have a handful of items to be presented at the board on Thursday, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has in the meantime.
Thank you, Member Lehman. Moving on to item 4C, and that is Health Committee with Member Byrne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Health Committee brings 3 items for action today. With permission, I'd like to bundle those together, please. All right, we have 4.
As long as there's no objection from the committee?
Any objection?
Seeing none, move ahead.
We have, is that 4C? 4C 1A, request approval of emergency appropriation ordinance amending McLean County fiscal year 2024 combined annual appropriation budget ordinance for Fund 0105. Request approval of emergency appropriation ordinance for budget ordinance for Fund 0107, and approval of an emergency appropriation for budget. It's written right there. Budget ordinance for Fund 017, and I so move.
Is there a second? Second by Member Abel. Comments or questions from the committee on these 3 items? Seeing none, all in favor of item 4C, 1A, B, and C, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We have one other item to be presented to the board on Thursday. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Next up, we've got 4D, Justice Committee, and that is Vice Chair Rogel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Justice Committee brings 4 items for action tonight, and then we will have a few to be presented to the board on Thursday. First one up is 4D1A, request approval of a grant agreement between the State of Illinois, Illinois Emergency Management Agency, and the Office of Homeland Security, and I so move.
Can I have a second? Second by Member Byrne. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 4D1A, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Back to you.
All right, next up, we have 4D1B, request approval of an intergovernmental agreement between the County of McLean, Olympia Community Unit School District 16, and the McLean County Sheriff's Office, and I so move.
May I have a second? Second by Member Klein. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 4D1B, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Next up, we have 4D1C, which is request approval of an administrative office of the Illinois Courts DOJ BJA Community Supervision Strategies Swift Certain Fair Grant Program Subrecipient Grant Agreement. Say that 5 times fast. And I so move.
May I have a second? Second by Member Friedrich. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 4D1C, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Last item.
Last up, we have 4D1D, request approval of a Casa Voca continuation grant for fiscal year 2025, and I so move.
May I have a second? Second by Member Abel. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 4D1D, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Vice Chair O'Gell.
That concludes our items for action tonight. We will have 4 items for the board on Thursday, including invoices that need to be paid so they can be reimbursed out of a federal grant. I can answer any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you so much. Moving on, item 4E is Property Committee, and that is Member Abel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Property Committee did not meet this month since there was no items for action. We currently don't have any or items to be presented to the board, but I can do my best to answer any questions anyone might have.
Thank you, Member Abel. All right, moving on, item 4F, Land Use and Transportation Committee, and that is Member Klein.
Thank you, Chairperson Johnston. The newly formed Land Use and Transportation Committee brings 2 items for action this evening. 4F1A, request approval of an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Downs and McLean County, and I so move.
Can I get a second? Second by Member Friedrich. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 4F1A, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item.
Thank you, Chair Johnston. The next item is 4F1B, request approval of an intergovernmental agreement between IDOT and McLean County for the Route 66 Bike Trail, Section 24-00001-07-BT, and I so move.
Can I get a second? Second by Member Lehman. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 4F1B, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Chair. The Land Use and Transportation Committee will bring 3 additional items for approval in our full board meeting. In addition to that, I would like to simply say that on our consent agenda, you will see the results of our battery electric storage zoning amendment, which passed with some revisions from the Zoning Board of Appeals. And so I would just like to thank the committee members and the Zoning Board of Appeals members for all of that work, but it is finally going to be born on Thursday, so.
And if you could clarify, I know that we had a conversation, the amendments that were made after the Zoning Board of Appeals were within the parameters that were, can you explain that?
Yeah, there was one request from the ZBA and in conversation in the hearing about some language about financial liability should the land transfer. And it wasn't clear in the text that we had that the obligations and the benefits travel, right? So that if the company were to sell and if the individual landowner were to sell, that they are still bound by the agreement. And so I just needed the lawyers to make up the right language and not do it on the fly. And so that's been approved.
And it was established that it didn't need to go back to the Zoning Board of
Correct, because
Appeals, it could move forward.
It was in agreement with what was stated at the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Excellent, thank you.
But I'm happy to answer any questions about it, should anybody have any.
All right, thank you. Member Klein. Moving on, item 4G, and that is our County Administrator, Cassie Taylor.
Thank you, Chair Johnston. I have 3 items for the consideration of the committee. The first is 4G1A, request approval of an intergovernmental agreement between McLean County and Mount Hope Funks Grove Fire Protection District for allocation of funds via the Illinois Opioid Allocation Agreement.
And can I get a motion? Motion by Vice Chair Rogal, a second by Member Friedrich. Any comments or questions? I'm really grateful that we can spread some of the opioid money out to some of our rural communities because it is much needed everywhere. So I'm glad to see that we're bringing this forward. If there are no other comments or questions, all in favor of item 4G1A, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Chair. The next item is 4G1B. This is a related item. It's a request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2025 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for Fund 0113, which is our opioid fund.
Thank you. Can I get a motion? Motion by Member Byrne, second by Vice Chair Rogal. Any comments or questions? It's a pretty straightforward item. Seeing none, all in favor of item 4G1B, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Back to you, Administrator Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Lastly, 4G1C, request approval of proposal from M&O Environmental for professional asbestos abatement at McLean County Nursing Home.
Can I get a motion? Motion by Member Byrne, second by Member Klein. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of 4G1C, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. That is all that I have to present to the committee this evening. I have no other items.
Thank you so much. All right, last item that I see up here is item 5A1. This is under the Business and Communication, and this is a request approval of an ordinance by the McLean County Board amending Chapter 116, Purchasing and Contracting, the local preference policy of the McLean County Code. This was tabled at our December meeting to the January executive meeting. Is there a motion? Seeing none, this item is not removed from the table. The next meeting date for the Executive Committee will be February 10th at 4 p.m. And if there's no other announcements, we are adjourned.